Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello, welcome back to the channel, welcome home. We're here at the Shmuseum, but today we are heading to Hethel, the home of Lotus, because my new Lotus Emira is completing build. We're going to be checking out the assembly line, seeing my very own car as it literally reaches the end of the line ahead of delivery in only a couple of weeks. Now, it's been a long wait for the Emira. I ordered it a couple of years ago now, but it's finally about to be here. So we're heading over in final, the Lotus Elise Cup 250 final edition, final car, which I've, believe it or not actually driven myself since it completed the running in process. This car now has about 11,000 miles on it, this luminous orange paintwork, and I'm quite excited to drive it over to the home of Lotus, where the car's actually been before, to go and see my Emira. We're straight into the thick of it, straight back home, straight on the road again. Let's do this. Today it is all about Lotus and the newest Shmeemobile. Things have shuffled around a little bit here. We've got the Penpack auto stackers in operation with many of the cars at the moment. Of course, the GT500 arrived. It's now ready. We do need to get some new tyres onto it ASAP though. We also have Dub Customs TVR just here. That's Brad's Abarth 124. That's not revealed yet. Stay tuned on the Shmuseum channel for what's coming up there. But today we are taking this out, Firefly, as it's been affectionately nicknamed, with the most suitable of suitable number plates that you could possibly have on this thing. The final version of the Lotus Elise, the final chassis number of the Cup 250. So we're going to pull this out. We've just unplugged the CTEC smart charger from the back, get it onto the road and go drive this over today to Hethel. The first thing is to climb into this, which is not the easiest thing in the world. It is a tiny little car. It is left-hand drive on this particular example, but I can just about manage. Actually, thankfully, I'm quite small, so not the hardest thing in the world, but let me get it started and pull it out. Back at the wheel of the little Lotus Elise then. I tell you what, this is a seriously engaging car to drive, although you feel everything. You feel every single bump. It is a beautiful, crisp winter's day. Just look at the colour of the arches on this thing. People a mile away can see this car coming. Firefly is so bright, it's ridiculous. A 14-layer paint that will fade over time. It will get a patina due to this luminous paint colour. But we are heading now to Hethel, to the Lotus factory, where I've not actually been for quite a while, a couple of years now. I've been out on the test track there before, in an Elise as it happens. But we're heading in the final car, the end of the last generation, the last chapter really of Lotus, to go and see the new car. Now you might remember, prior to when I headed out to the US for the big tour of the GT Black Series, and of course also to the Middle East, I had actually asked Lotus a very odd question. Could they delay the build of my Emira? I think I'm the only person in the world that would ask if that's possible, but because I knew I was going to the US for a month, and I knew also that I'd then be going out to the Middle East, I basically wanted the opportunity to go and see it, to be able to share this with you, and of course to take delivery of it in the very near future. That's only a couple of weeks away. Now, Lotus kindly delivered an Emira in the same colour as mine to the Shmuseum a few months back to have a first drive, to get a taste for what it's going to be like. My car is in Hethel Yellow, a first edition, with a manual, all important for this kind of sports car, for the kind of drive you want. In fact, I'm just going to put this into sport mode, drop down some gears. This is what it's about, and while this thing might not necessarily be the fastest car in the world, the Elise is a whole lot of fun. Now, this is a big deal because I think it's a rite of passage for every petrolhead, for every car guy to own a Lotus at some point. And while we've had the use of this and we're the custodians of this final Cup 250 at the Shmuseum, thanks to my friend who owns it, and we'll be looking after it for an extended period into the future, it's not the same as your own. So we're heading today to see my car on the factory floor, on the assembly line, going through the motions, reaching, I think, towards the very end, in fact, but we'll find out exactly when we get there what that's going to be like and what stage it's going to be at ahead of delivery. But the Emira is a car with so much buzz around it, so much hype, so much excitement, and it's finally time. It's time to take delivery. It might be winter, but we do have a nice day today, at least, for the drive up. Hopefully it'll be something like this when it is time eventually to collect it. So onwards Hopefully we'll get towards some nicer roads on the arrival towards Lotus in Hethel, and then we will be able to see my Emira, my Shmeemobile, right there at the factory. There's a big difference between this generation of Lotus and the new ones. Cup holders, nope, you've basically just got a storage area there. Sound system, nope, blanking plate, although there are some speakers for whatever reason up on the dash, or maybe they're just grills, I don't know exactly. But yeah, this is stripped out, track focused. Emira is a car that is much more this kind of level of driving dynamics with comfort, creature comforts, electronics, screens, practicality, and that's what I suppose I'm most looking forward to living with. Like, what's it going to be like? It'll probably become my daily car for the near future, I imagine. I'll be driving it a lot, I hope. This is where we get to enjoy this little car a touch more. Out into the country lanes, even if they're a little bit greasy and slippery, but I tell you what, it's where a car like this comes into its own, just being small, nimble, perfectly suited to these kind of country lanes, and a whole lot of fun to drive. Flip it down the gears, back on the throttle. It's not particularly fast, it's not going to be breaking any records for acceleration with just over 200 horsepower, but it's a whole lot of fun, as we're only actually 2 miles away from Lotus now. You can see, surrounded by roads like this, how they make the cars they do. Very much ingrained into the blood of everybody in the company. Anyway, not far to go now. This is it then, the arrival towards Lotus Cars. Classic Team Lotus in that building. But we're going straight past because we are heading towards the main gates, I believe, right here. Indeed, this is where we're coming. For the drivers, it's exciting to be back here. Right, we're going to have to probably park up, go and sign on and get permission to head in to go and visit here, the home of Lotus. This is where it happens then, standing right in front of the new Chapman production centre, where inside we have the assembly line that we can go and tour to see the motions that my car has been through before arriving at the car itself. Now, this is all very different to the last time I actually came here to visit. We're right beside the test track, where in fact this is where I learnt to get my racing licence, driving an Exige Cup back about 6 or 7 years ago. This is all new though, but inside is where the magic happens. Let's head straight on in and go see how the Emiras come together. This is where the journey begins. We're in the pre-assembly hall, where of course all of the components of my car began where they started. We have the likes of the seats and trim, we've got some body panels and the jig that they all go onto before they go for paint, and then over this way we have the engines, the damper assembly, the subframes, the rear starts here, the front at the other end, where it then meets. But these are, of course, the V6 engines, which actually arrived direct in their stock form from Japan. The 4-cylinder production will begin next year. They then have the engine assembly line, where they get the supercharger, they get the other components, before they go over to be mated with the rear subframe that makes its way through over on this side. If we come through here, this is where we have scores of seats. And remember, this is the first time I'm seeing all of the different trims, all of the different colours, all of the different options, lots of the red and tan seats over towards that side. Of course, plenty of parts and different components that are all being assembled as everything makes its way through. You can see the seat shells here where they get the trim actually installed onto them. This is where we have the subframes arriving and meeting with one another, the front having arrived down towards us, with the different parts, the dampers, brakes in place, all the different components, cooling for example, body panels galore, Hethel Yellow, the colour that I have chosen on mine, dark verdant, that very dark metallic green paint. This is where the panels are actually all lined up onto the jig. This is particularly fascinating. The main assembly is over in that direction, but the panels arrive, they're put into position on the jig that you see there before they go through towards the paint shop for everything to be done on that side with them. On this side, the front parts of the subframe are all coming together, but I want to skip through here because this is actually really quite interesting. These are the different components of the dampers. So we have, for example, the Sport front springs and rear springs, which I've opted for, and then you have the Tour springs, and there's quite a significantly marked difference between the springs that go on depending on the configuration, where they're then actually assembled and put together right here on the line, obviously before these parts are prepared on their jigs to be taken onwards to the next stages. On this side, the work for the chassis begins. In fact, The parts arrive at the very start. They're then positioned up, as you can see, vertically to make it easier to access. In fact, we have at this point either the left-hand drive or right-hand drive set. Previously with Lotus Cars, actually it was done on the line decided, but in this case they are slightly different. We obviously have the wiring loom installed and various things coming together. In fact, the fuel tank, I believe, is already installed in here. And then over this side, if we squeeze through, is where we have a whole sea of coloured body parts, effectively a store for different body panels, for the completed doors in fact, which will be meeting the cars on the line very shortly. But it's amazing to see all the different colours, the Hethel Yellow, the Seneca Blue, Dark Verdant, the different shades for the first edition cars. This is quite intriguing, the way the automated machines effectively help with the bonding process to ensure everything is completely precise and perfect. Watching the robotics at work with what they do in terms of the correct amounts of everything, roof panel being prepared, being loaded up, because that will then be put into place on the next car coming through over here, as you can see, ready to head to the main assembly line. We can see this in motion, the framing of the roof and the rails that you have there, which effectively are positioned. It's quite crazy to see this up close and to watch how this is about to work. Well, this is crazy to see. The roof panel and the roof rails have the bonding agent put onto them there, with the robot actually moving the entirety of the roof panel before it will then be taken over to the car. The chassis then arrives in the main production hall. This is the exact line my car will have gone through, and it's waiting for us at the other end. But the chassis is fitted onto the AGV, the automated guided vehicle, which effectively takes it through the entirety of the line. This is what we've just seen with the roof and the rails being bonded onto the car, this being Hethel Yellow, albeit a left-hand drive example. But by using these machines, it can lift up to the right height to make it easier for the staff to work, for the technicians to be able to install the different components as it then makes its way through and around. This is a production line as you more traditionally think about it. We now have everything arriving together. As you can see, the subframe assembly, it's all plumbed in. This is where lots of different components are added and they prepare for the installation of the interior. You can see, of course, in here, the exposed shifter, which actually looks incredible. If opted for the manual, there's also the automatic option, but I imagine many of the first editions are going to be manual, as I have chosen as well. But the next stages all being in place, ready for the cars to make their way through this room. As we've made our way further up the line, you can see here, we've got the carpets and some of the lower sections of the interior. If I skip on through though, this is where the full dashboard assembly arrives. So the completed part, effectively, ready to go straight on in. The black leather with the yellow stitching in this particular example, the screen in the very center of it, that's then installed into place, where as you can see, we've got the first edition badging right up at the very top, and I can hear a car running in the background as well, which presumably has just reached the end of the line. Not too many more stages to go at this point. Then the robots and machines that you have here are actually to help with the installation of the seats. So those seats are waiting for the next car on the line. This car has just received its seats, and you've got that whole central tunnel now fitted as well. We're starting to look very similar to how my car is going to be. At this stage, we now have the boot, the luggage space, we've got the trunk lid, we have the doors in place, even more of the interior, lots of that lovely yellow obviously up front, we've got the wing panels, the bumpers are fitted. We're still waiting for the badge, of course, at this point in time, but really starting to take shape. Windscreen has been installed, and plenty more. A compulsory element before the car can go on its own way, the wheels. We've got lightweight wheels, the dual tone finish here with the diamond cut fascias. I've gone for the full silver wheels, but I have also gone for the Sport Cup 2 tyres, which are the standard option on the Sport chassis. You could opt for them on the Touring chassis. These then get lifted up, again, using the robots to help make life a little bit easier, to pop them into place, in this case on the Seneca Blue car with the bright yellow calipers. That will then be lowered down from the AGV so that it can go on its own way, although these, interestingly, actually go over various wireless chargers as they go around the assembly hall to ensure that they can make their way through, because the ultimate goal is that they'll be producing something like 7,000 cars a year, a bit over 100 cars a day on the assembly line here for the Emira. Once the car has passed through end-of-line assembly confirmation, this is where it comes to this very clever piece of equipment, which helps with both the headline adjustment, but also the alignment. Of course, it's critical with cars like this, that they drive as perfectly as you want them to. Goes through a little bit of a test here. Of course, there are various different quality control stages as they head through the entire assembly line. But using this means that all of the computers are able to read various things. They can also access it from underneath before it then actually also has the rolling road processes beyond. So various different cars, well, every car goes through here and goes through the rolling road, and also some of the water testing. This final hall is the final quality control, where we have also, by the way, Shadow Grey, Nimbus Grey, Seneca Blue, Hethel Yellow, Dark Verdant, as the car is here. So any final paint correction or paint work required, the cars then come through here with all of the lighting to point out any defects or anything like that. And they actually do a lot of work in terms of removing holograms or anything like that to ensure the cars are in perfect shape. We haven't seen a magma red one really today, probably the rarest of the colors we've seen today, but it's time to go and find mine. Well, it's time. We are right beside the car. Shall we take a look then? Here it is, my Lotus Emira First Edition, Supercharged V6, manual gearbox, Hethel Yellow, sport chassis, silver wheels, Sport Cup 2 tyres. But come and have a look at the interior, because this is probably my bold decision when it comes to the specification. I've gone for the ice grey leather. And if I can say so myself, it's brilliant. The dual tone split between the ice grey and the black, especially with the details in the seat, those black stripes, the black contrast stitching that you have as well, and the silver accents inside that match with the exterior, look so smart. I went for the contrast black roof. Lots of this are options. You've got the first edition plaque on the side, but being a first edition means that it's basically supplied in full spec. There are very few of those options other than the color choices that you get, also the black details on the exterior. But up to this point, it's been through most of the quality control. It's still awaiting the badge, which we might be able to get involved with in a moment. But this is super cool. This is going to be so much fun. It's amazing to just be standing here looking at it, having been through the whole line, to see what goes into making this. And perhaps really intriguingly for me is the family feel of the assembly area. Everybody's so friendly that we've been speaking with along the way in building these. This is my Emira. This is actually the car right here at the factory. I am having the honor of applying the badge to the front of my car. This is, of course, you could say the ceremonial final step of a car when it's been through all the motions, when it's ready to head onwards to the customer. This should be quite simple with the guiding pins on the back and this. So I reckon I'm just gonna go straight in and give it a go. Let me take that off. In theory, I can line this up and then just stick it down in place, give it a press, and there we go. We have the badge on the front of my Emira. It's ready to head onwards for delivery in not too long. Technically speaking, at this stage, it's not yet my car, because I, of course, haven't paid for it, but it is the car that I've got the deposit down for and have ordered and intend to take delivery of. So that means I can take a seat inside for the first time. My first seat inside my Emira. The car I drove before, I'm sure, was a left-hand drive car, if I remember correctly. But let me carefully swivel around and sit inside here. Delicately does it. There we go. Oh, not bad, not bad. Need to give it some power, just so I can shuffle the seat forward. We've got the electric seats in here. Slide them forwards and get ready to shift it into gear. That feels good. That feels really cool. I can't wait to drive this. I'm actually allowed to press the start button. Take a listen to this. Well, this is awesome. And I'm gonna drive it forwards about 10 meters. So bear with me. Here we go. Shuffling forwards. I actually have some boots on at the moment from walking around the factory. But in some very strange way, I have now driven my Emira for the first couple of meters. But now I'm gonna swing out. This is a Lotus with cup holders, with infotainment, with storage, with practicality. It's my first Lotus And how cool to have seen it here at the factory, to have been with the car, to have put the badge on it myself. I can't wait to officially own this car and go and drive it and share that experience with you. Well, for the time being, we need to say goodbye. We shall see this car again very soon. I know doing silver wheels on a yellow car is a big talking point. Went with the black calipers, of course, for the contrast down there, but I'm a big silver wheels fan, as you know from the other cars in my collection. And I think with this interior, which again is an unusual option, it creates a fairly unique Emira spec, and that's what I wanted to go for. I'm very happy with this, and I cannot wait to drive it, to get my plates on it, to get it out there, and to go and have some fun, all of which will be coming very soon. I think there we have it for today. What an opportunity to come here to the Chapman Production Centre in Hethel to see the build process of the Emira, the journey that my car has been through before now heading off for the final checks and then eventually ready for collection. Counting down the days, but for today, of course, we're going to be going back to base in final in the last Elise Cup 250, the end of the previous chapter. New times, new exciting things for Lotus, and very exciting for me to be part of them with the Emira. I can't wait to get it out onto the road, as I said. Stay tuned for lots of adventures to come, but an epic opportunity today to see that process, to see the car for the first time, to, in some form, you could say, drive it, to be a small part of it by putting the badge in place. But for now, it's cold, it's windy, it's getting dark, it's time to head home. So thank you very much for watching as always, guys. I appreciate your support an awful lot. A huge thanks to the team here at Lotus for their hospitality and the opportunity to come and be part of all of this. That's it for now though, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.